Hey y'all, how you doing? We are back on the mic. Well, I'm back. I'm by myself today. It's been a while since I've done this solo recording, but I am here to just do a quick overview of PT, what we've learned so far. A lot of this information was mentioned and given out by our guest speakers that we had. If you haven't checked it out, check out the last two episodes. Those were both physical therapy interview. These were both episodes wherein I had a physical therapist on as a guest, and so especially the last one, he himself was a fellow, had he's about done with his fellowship, doing some great work out there on the PT realm, and also adding his own flair to it. I had such a fun time interviewing him and just chatting with him. So if you haven't checked that out, check that out. I think you will enjoy that episode very much, and everything else on the podcast, of course. But if you are somebody interested in PT, I would highly recommend you go and check that out. So we are going to do a quick overview of PT as mentioned, and I'm going to start with what do physical therapists do. Now, if you've heard, again, you've probably heard our different guests gave this in their own term, or going back to this or so forth. So listen to those episodes. I think those episodes are where you're going to get the most information, get a better of a feel for what's out there. But anyway, so what do physical therapists do? And I'm reading this for the official website, apta.org. So physical therapists are movement experts who improve quality of life through prescribed exercise, hands-on care, and patient education. Physical therapists diagnose and treat individuals of all ages, from newborn to people at the end of life. Many patients have injuries, disabilities, or other health conditions that need treatment, but PTs also care for people who simply want to become healthier and to prevent future problems. So it goes on from there, but that sort of gives us a view into what they do, and I like that they have the word prescribe here, because a lot of time we don't think about what physical therapists are doing and how they're helping their patients, and the exercises they're giving now as prescription. But it is because they're asking you to do certain exercise a certain number of time a day, a certain number of time a week, and it's essentially what a prescription is, right? You go to the doctor and they give you, let's say, metronidazole for bacterial vaginitis or something. They want you to take a certain time for once a day for a certain period of time, right? Or even if it's as needed, that's still a prescription. So just keep in mind that these are prescription that they're giving you, and you are more likely to get the best result if you stick to what was prescribed, right? And so where do physical therapists work? So physical therapists practice in a wide range of settings, including hospitals, outpatient clinic, people's homes, schools, sports and fitness facilities, workplaces, and nursing homes. Again, I'm gonna keep referring back to some of my previous interviews, because a lot of the information was in there. But if you listen to my last episode with Kevin, he is working with one of his patient population is people with Parkinson's disease, and I zoomed in a little in that because I personally have worked with folks with Parkinson's disease and Alzheimer's disease and things like that, but on a totally different side. And having being in healthcare and knowing about the disease and so forth, nowhere in the books really, at least the way I'm learning about it, have I seeing physical therapists as part of the treatment team, right? So it was amazing hearing him speak a little bit on what he does and how he does it, and how he brings some relief to those patients who are essentially diagnosed with non-curable, diagnosed with a disease that you can't really cure, right? So it's whatever we can do at that stage is better than nothing. So that gives you an example of how wide the realm of physical therapy can be if you so choose. Now, he did go to fellowship, and depending on how specialized you want to be, clearly you want to go to residency or fellowship, but as he mentioned, that's not necessarily always necessary. I'm going to refer back to him a few times, and including now, saying that if you are interested in PT, but you have another interest and you're thinking, PT and this other interest, let's say you're interested in PT but you like the brain, or PT but you like the heart, or what have you, and you're as of now unsure of how those two can work together, definitely talk to somebody who's in the field, such as Kevin. Use LinkedIn. I've used LinkedIn for a lot of things. A lot of my most recent guests here have been on from LinkedIn. I've used LinkedIn behind the scene for my own personal development and things like that, or just simply connecting with people. So it's been a nice resource. Of course, being on there and actually connecting with people is how you get whatever result you're looking for. If that's just building your network, or finding a mentor, or finding somebody who's doing something that you want to do and ask them questions, poke their brain, or what have you. The best way you're going to do that is actually interacting with people, being human. I mean, this is social networks. I mean, social media for a reason. Socialize. Okay, so this gives us move on to the next thing, is how much do physical therapists make? Now, I'm gonna add this in here, as I will add for everything else, and that is how much you're making in any field, whether it's physical therapist or pharmacy or PA or doctor. Depends on the specialty you're in, where you're working as in geographically, and your level of experience, right? And the market is another thing. So over here they have let me go back real quick. So APTA stands for American Physical Therapists Association. I'm gonna put that in there. So that right here, the median salary for physical therapy is $85,000. Keep in mind, median means there is lower, there is higher, and as I said, it just depends on where you are. But that gives you an idea of when you're trying to sort of plan things out and estimate your income after graduation and all of that. And yep, they even put it here, same thing, depends on geographic location, experience, and so forth. Now I'm going to compare that. Y'all know, if y'all watch my other solo episodes, you know that I refer to BLS.gov quite often for statistics such as income and job outlook and so forth. And the income here, the median they have here is $91,000. So it's a little higher than what's on the other website, what's on APTA, but it's about the same, right? It's in that range. And the job outlook here is 18%, which is faster than average. So it's that sort of gives you an idea, like, okay, when I'm done with school, I'm not gonna have a hard time finding a position. So now let's talk about how to become a PT. And again, if you know anything about PT or listen to my last episode, you know PTs is a doctorate level degree, right? You need to earn a doctorate degree from an accredited school or program, same thing, and then you need to pass your state licensure exam. So let's keep that in mind. I haven't met any I haven't heard of any healthcare professional, especially like anything above like entry level, where you don't need a national exam or state exam to start to practice. And it can be annoying sometimes, trust me. I can go on a soap opera about that, but it's what it is, right? And so one thing about the education is that it's saying here that most of the education is in the classroom, right? And so that's about 80%, and then the other 20% is spent on clinical and so forth. So of course that depends on whether, if you do residency and fellowship afterward, or do some other added training afterward, then you are going to have a little bit more hands-on or what have you, and your education might be a little different by the time you're all done. But for now, for like the minimum requirement, which, so the next thing I'll touch on is how to become Nptd, right? So we know you need a doctoral level to practice as a PT, and you need to pass that license. So now what's the process, right? What's the process for that is, let's take it from after high school. That's usually where I start. So after high school, you want to become a PT. Of course, it's a doctoral level, so you need a bachelor's degree at least to apply. Some folks, just like any other higher level healthcare program or higher level education period, some might obtain a master's degree, some might go straight after a bachelor's degree. And again, referring back to Kevin, we know that he did his master's and then went to PT school. It's not required, but that's a route for some folks. So let me go through the requirements as I'm veering off and adding so many soap-ups in these things, or parentheses I should call them. Okay, so you done after PT school, after high school, you want to become a PT. Of course, you need a bachelor's degree, much like medical school or PA school, and surely even pharmacy school. Yeah, you don't need a particular bachelor's degree. You can get a bachelor's degree in anything. Of course, alongside that, like anything else, you need certain prerequisites. So most people, if they knew it ahead of time at least, will get a bachelor's degree in something that allows them to get the prerequisites alongside that, so they don't have to do it separately. It's put in here that some of the most common majors to for folks who are going to PT school for undergrad is include exercise science, biology, kinesiology, and physiology. So there is that. So you're done with high school, you went to get your undergraduate in whatever you want. You have to then do prerequisites. Again, it's very similar to most other things. Prerequisites includes anatomy and physiology, biology, chemistry, physics, psychology, and so forth, right? Those are like some of the core prerequisites. But as noted before in other chapters when we were here, those are the core ones that you likely are going to find that every school is requiring you. But you are likely to find that some schools are requiring a little bit more based on their school focus and so forth. So keep in mind, just always check for the school specific requirement. You got to do your research on which school you want to go to and dive in and see what their requirements are, what their GPA, minimum GPA is, right? So you got to meet the minimum GPAs. A lot of time, if the minimum GPA is 3.0 and you have anything less than that, your application is probably not even going to be looked at. So if you apply with the GPA less than what's required, what you'll end up doing is wasting your time and money, essentially. Unless you have some dope connections that's going to push your application through. Otherwise, then that's what you're looking at. I am not in that world of connections in that regard, so I don't know about that. I'm just gonna put it out there. But if you have other connections, utilize them. I'm not gonna say no to ya. So you got the GPA. Now you also need it's not required for every PT program, but many do require some physical therapy volunteer experience. So a lot of those are some of the requirements, and then letter of recommendation, of course. That's about it, and then you apply and you get in. So one point they made here is, of the people who go into PT school, fewer than 2% of them were PTAs before. So it's very small number of people. So as far as history and work-life balance are concerned, I've decided to take those out of these sections. Number one, because as much as I want to be complete, this is a baseline for you. And history, if you listen to my first few episode, you know history is just not one of my fortes, and I don't think it will add to the resources you need as a baseline anyway, as you're deciding on which, if any, of these paths you take in healthcare. Another thing is work-life balance, which again, it's so subjective. It's not, it's not black or white. It really depends for nearly all of these. If not, I can boldly say all of these careers that I'm covering, work-life balance is very subjective. It depends on where you work, what clinic you work in, or hospital, what setting you work in, what schedule you decide to make for yourself, your level of experience, which would then add to your options in work setting and so forth. So, and who you are as well, because some people, you can think work-life balance 60 hours a week is normal. They will think that's more than they need, whereas other people will think work-life balance at 30 hours a week is nothing. It's down the drain. So it really depends on the person's interpretation, and so many different factors that it just doesn't make sense for me to put in here. And so instead of putting it in here, I've make it a point to move it to my interview episodes. So a lot of time I'm asking my guests what their work-life balance is, and that will give you a subjective option. Like, that will give you an insight into their work-life balance, which again is not saying much about other people's work-life balance. But I think that will serve you better than to hear me mention it from some website I found on the internet, say about an article saying something, and so those are the two things I'm taking out of these sections. Just to wrap this up, PT school, right? So what PTs, we talk about what PTs do, who they are, and how to become a PT. So again, it's a doctorate program. You after your high school, you need a bachelor's degree. You can get a bachelor's degree in anything, but keep in mind that you do have some prerequisites that you need to complete. Once you have the bachelor's degree, have the prerequisites. Some schools require volunteering activity in a PT setting. So once you have that and you have all the requirements of the school, your GPA is fit the minimum GPA requirement, then you apply to the program. Again, that's another research section that you have to do and pick the programs you want to apply to, and thus focusing on the prerequisites, GPA, of letter of recommendation, and all that they're asking for. And then once you apply and get in, you go through the program. It's about 3 years, and then there might be some 4 years depending on the program. After you're done with that, you can do residency, fellowship if you so choose. But before you can practice, even if you don't do residency or fellowship, you need to pass the state the board exam essentially, and then you'll be able to practice, and from there on is your choice whether or not you want to do fellowship or internship or what's the other one I'm forgetting about, residency. If you want to specialize in anything, how do you want to do that? You have the option, of course. The leadership option can be a little, it depends on your view, because as I mentioned earlier, we had the two interviews I've had so far for this one with Jeff and Colin. They didn't view much option for leadership in as a PT in outside of creating your own company. Again, that makes sense because they have their own company and that's what they found success. The second interview I had with Kevin, he's on both sides, wherein he does have a business side but also is an employee, and he finds plenty of opportunities in leadership in the PT world. So that's something else that you just gotta, it depends on where you are, who you know, what opportunities you've given yourself and have been given to you, and how equipped you are to take that leadership position. Or are you more of the type to just go ahead and start your own company and run it from down up? It's all relevant. It's all leadership. I just did an interview with the dentist, and he mentioned something that I think is very helpful and very useful across the board, which is when I asked him about leadership, he mentioned that just being a dentist is already leadership, is a leading position already. And I know this is not the dentist episode, but that's a quote from him that I think is very useful to keep in mind, that all of these positions, especially the ones I've covered so far in this allied health mini umbrella, whether it's PA or pharmacist or dentist or PT. Next I have things like OT coming up, and acupuncturist and chiropractor. All the things are already leadership positions. Yeah, you were hired by somebody, but remember, nearly every leader has somebody else on top of them. It's not many folks in this world don't have somebody looking over them. It's like even the president has somebody that he has to respond to. So it depends on how you define your leadership. Just keep that in mind. With that said, I'm going to close this up, and thank you guys for joining me. I will see you all next time. Peace.